Hello everybody, Jody here from Food Storage Made Easy. I am going live today for the last time in our summer preparedness inventory challenge. So if you have been following along, you'll know that we've done this for the last 6 weeks. This is the 7th week with a little break in between, going over all the aspects of our food storage, figuring out what we want to have, what we already have, and what we still need to get. And so we're going to finish up. Since I had a few weeks that I missed, I'm going to combine the last 2 weeks, but they really actually go hand in hand. I was just splitting it up because it was a pretty big topic. So we covered mainly food as well as a few non-food items last week. So you'll remember, like, it's kind of like if you can't go to the store, what do you have on hand? So your shampoos and your soaps and toilet paper, things like that. But today, and kind of for the rest of the inventory challenge, I want to go over what you would need for an emergency. So actual emergency preps. So I have a way I like to think about it. So this comes from my friend Tammy, who created the Prepare My Life planners, the ones we talked about in week 1. She talks about the 3 different scenarios you would prepare for. One is to walk away from your home. And that's really where your 72-hour kits, your disaster kits come in. And we did those in week 1, where you just take a few things to get you through 3 days till you can get some more help. Basically is the idea of that. Then number 2 scenario is that you can drive away. And so if you can drive away, what are you going to take? What can you take? And how are you going to survive if you aren't in your home? And so that's scenarios to consider. And then the third one is you're going to shelter in place. So you're going to stay in your house, you're going to protect your house, you're going to use your supplies here, but you may not have access to services like power, water, gas, all of that. So you want to prepare to be able to live at home without access to that stuff, or be able to leave using your car, or be able to leave just on foot. So today we're going to cover the last 2 scenarios and go over sort of what preparedness items you want to have on hand to cover those. So I brought all of my toys to play with today. This is not all of them, but I just want to give you a couple of examples of things that you might want to consider storing. And I'll obviously, in the email that's going to go out today or tomorrow, I'll give you links to as much stuff as I can. Some of the stuff I bought forever ago, so I can't promise I can show you the exact same things, but I will do my best. So when it comes to preparing to either evacuate or shelter in place, the really thing I like to think about is, what are you preparing for? So what is the scenario that's going to make you have to do that? And then you can kind of prepare thinking based on that. So the thing I've been thinking about in my area lately especially is if there was a nuclear fallout in Washington, D.C. They nuked our capital, right? I live like 2 or 3 hours away, so I wouldn't be hit in the detonation, but we're going to have, radiation coming at us. We're going to need to get out. So that's a scenario where I would want to get in my car, drive away, and drive as far west as possible, maybe back home to Utah. So what am I going to bring? I got to think about that, because I might not be able to access services along the way. We don't know if we're going to be able to get to family, or if we're going to be camping on the side of the road. So I'm going to make my evacuation list based off that. I'm going to bring everything that I can in order of priority on the list. So the same thing that we talked about for an evacuation on foot, a short-term emergency, you'll have your evacuation list. Get as far as you can down that list, as long as you have to prepare. If you have 5 minutes to prepare, or if you have 5 hours to prepare, it's going to look probably very different. And then so after you kind of decide what the scenarios are, you're going to want to go over the different kind of categories of prepping. So shelter, heating, cooling, communication, first aid, light and power, sanitation or hygiene, and then protection. So I'm going to go over each of those things with you, and then I want to give you guys an invitation. We are just doing a challenge, but actually every September for the last 12 years, I have done a 7-day emergency preparedness challenge with tons of people. We have thousands of people who sign up and do this every year, and it's awesome. So I come out with different scenarios, different emergency hypotheticals, and we all live through the emergency together. And so it's something different every day of the week, and it has us practice different areas of our preparedness. And so if this all feels overwhelming to you today, just hang tight, and later this month we are going to dive into this all a lot more. So if you want to kind of do a basic inventory, you can, but if you want to really dive into it later this month, I think that would also work pretty well. So it's going to be, it starts on a surprise day in September, so there are things you can do to be ready, but for the challenge, you can't go to the store, you can't spend any money, can't buy gas, can't eat out. So for 7 days, you're stuck with your preps that you have. And then we do each of the scenarios, and you have tasks and limitations assigned to each day. So there's a link in the description of this video to sign up for this year's challenge. And if you've done it in the past, you should get the emails automatically. So I highly encourage you to do that, because it feels very different to just like know you have this stuff in your basement or your garage than to actually like use it. I promise, until you've had to poop in a bucket, you don't really know what you need to have. So it's very much different to like know that you could do it or to actually have to look through doing it yourself. So that's my plug for the 7-day challenge. It is such a good experience. Every year I learn something new, even though I'm the one that invents it. But I always use it as a chance to practice and to re-inventory and to make a plan of what I need to do or learn going forward. So let's start with, so we did food mostly, but the trick with food is how you're going to cook it, especially if you have to leave your house. So powerless cooking we're going to talk about last, because that's kind of like a whole course in and of itself, which I have done a whole course on powerless cooking. It is a lot. And then water, you're going to have water stored. You're probably going to have 2 weeks worth of water stored, hopefully maybe a little bit more. But what do you do after that? So if you're sheltering in place, you don't have access to running water, what's your plan? The plan is usually to go and find a stream somewhere or to collect rainwater. What if it's contaminated? I don't know. So you're going to need to find some way to purify, whether it's boiling or whether you have a purification tool. And I found this at an emergency preparedness fair. It's called an aqua pail. It functions similar to a Berkey, so it's gravity fed. So you pour the water in, the dirty water in the top, and it comes out a hole on the bottom, all purified and ready to go. They gave me a good sales pitch. I'll get this thing in. So if you can, I don't know if they still make them, if you can find it, it's awesome. So that's saved for kind of a longer term emergency situation. And then I have to know where alternative sources of water are in my neighborhood. Luckily, it rains a lot here. So definitely collecting rainwater is going to be on our list. So that's kind of your main considerations with water. The next thing I wanted to cover, let's talk about power a little bit. Power and light. So the little 100-hour candles, I'm pretty sure you can get those at most like emergency, like camping stores and stuff, or get them online. So I like to have these for light. They give a little bit of warmth, but it's mostly just to light around the house so that your kids aren't hauling like candles everywhere and you don't have to waste a lot of batteries for flashlights. If you do have flashlights, they're kind of spread all over, but that's a whole other topic of conversation. Now, for power and light, our favorite thing, every year for the 7-day challenge, there's a day without power, and we always tell ghost stories, and we use our little camping lantern. So this, it has battery in it, but my kids love this, and if you have to go to the bathroom, you can walk around with it, you know, you can, this is a crank, so it can crank charge it, or it has USB, so it can plug in and charge, and it has a handle. This is a Goal Zero product, by the way. It's a handle, so my kids will carry this around to go to the bathroom when we're playing with no power. It has hazard lights. It's pretty nifty, and you can actually charge. It has a USB out, so you can charge your phone with it too. So this can charge using any kind of a portable charging system. So this is the one I have used forever. This is a Goal Zero Yeti 150. I also, so if you guys ever have a chance to go to emergency preparedness fairs, you always find lots of really cool stuff. So I also got sales pitched on this new version. This is way lighter. I have not actually tested it yet. It's on my list to test. I got it kind of just before we were in the middle of moving. So this is sort of to replace or be in addition to this. This one is super heavy. So my kids couldn't really take that around, my little kids. This is light. It says it's 100 watt, I think, and this one's 150, so this one might hold a little more. But it does say you can get like 8 hours of charging with it. So I'm gonna do some experiments on these 2 items, but it never hurts to have multiple options for power, even just for your devices, so you can stay in communication. Now you can use solar panels that plug into these to charge them. I always leave them charged fully so that at least I start with a charge, but if there's a long-term emergency, obviously that won't work. You can also charge them with your car. But yeah, having some solar panels, which I've got a couple, but it's something I haven't really had to experiment with too much. So it's definitely on the list to work on. So here's another light. So I got a bunch of this stuff when I was really concerned about powerless cooking. So this one plugs right into the unit with power outages. And then you can turn on. Anyways, you can hang this one up and it kind of just like lights up the whole room. There you go. So we'll like hang it, it's got a hook. I can hang it like on my kitchen chandeliers and it just sort of lights up the room. So those are a couple of cool things. And as you can see, it's only just charging from my Go Zero unit. So I love their products. They're slick, they're pretty compact, they store well. Those are definitely good to have on hand. In terms of communication, I feel like having your cell phone and having internet is super important these days. But if cell towers go down, like I've heard in Louisiana right now with the hurricane, that cell service for a lot of people is non-existent. And so do you have a landline that you could have plugged in and have access to? Because that may still work. And do you have a radio, a ham radio? That's something that I've never delved into too much, but it's something I definitely want to learn. So that's another consideration. Let's see. So hygiene and sanitation. So in your food storage that we talked about all week, in your non-food items, you've done a lot of that. The toilet paper, the shampoos, all those things. So the one thing that is usually missing, well, 2 things in sanitation is the toilet and laundry. So in a long-term situation, like, yes, you can just wear dirty clothes, but what if it's like a year, or what if kids grow out of stuff and they don't have a lot of extras, or what if you have to leave and you can only bring a few items? So those are some things that you want to make sure you have figured out. Now, sanitation, like I mentioned, pooping in a bucket. So you can make a really simple toilet with a pool noodle around the edge, like a bucket with a pool noodle around it. I think I have a tutorial of this on the website. I'll have to find out. And then you can put all your emergency supplies in it. Then if you have to actually use it, it's comfortable. You can also buy those little plastic lids that just go on a bucket. Those are a little more comfortable. You definitely want to get some supplies like the bags and, however you're going to deal with it. Now, we had the biodegradable bags in our bucket, and when I went to clean it at the end of the challenge, I lifted it to get it out of the bucket, and the whole thing disintegrated. It was a huge, disgusting mess. So, like, in a way, I was glad that I practiced that, so I knew for the future, but also in a way, I was really not glad that I practiced that. So, a couple of things. You can use toilets in an emergency if you have water to flush. So you can use your stored water and flush. But if it's going to be a long-term emergency and water is limited, you're not going to want to do that. If it's 2 days where your water's shut down, yes, use your water and flush. You can go to the bathroom outside, but that can cause contamination, so you want to bury it. And also, if you have little kids who don't like to go in nature, the buckets can be helpful. And this is another thing that I got one time from a fair. I gotta go toilet. So this is more of like a cardboard one. I have not used it because it's nicely sealed, but it includes all the bags and everything that you would need. But I do have some tutorials for kits and what you can include. You can do kitty litter, or like different wood chips or shavings or whatever in the bottom of the buckets. Lots of stuff you can do with that. So I will put some resources for sanitation. Also, this is a fun little thing. This is a shower bag, a solar shower. So you fill this with water and then set it outside, and the heat will actually warm the water and then you can spray it out of the bottom. I have it put, but it actually gives you like a little spray, and you can spray and have a warm shower if you live in an area where your neighbors can see in your backyard. That you don't want to do it outside. But I just brought it back into my shower in the house and was using it, so that was fun. Then with laundry, so you can hand wash. You can buy a washing board like in the old days. It's a good idea to know how to make extra laundry soap. And at least if you don't always make it yourself, at least have the ingredients on hand to make it. If you need that for a long-term emergency, or just store enough laundry soap to get you through a long-term emergency. And then there are some really cool things for laundry, and I have been wanting to really test them all. I've watched some people who've tested them all. It's not a project that I have tackled myself yet, but there are like big, round laundry things that you can do. Or there's also just little things that look like the plunger that you can get, and it'll agitate all the clothes in a bucket. So there are some cool solutions for laundry. Definitely something that is on my list. You can also do just like a regular plunger. It's just not going to agitate it as well as the little units that you can buy. So that's kind of your sanitation. First aid, you probably have something like this. Now, if you need to evacuate, you can take your car, you can grab this. This could even kind of be grabbed on foot, but you should have some basic first aid in your disaster kits. This has like basics, but my husband is in the medical profession. He has like loads and loads of stuff that he wants to have for emergencies. We've got drawers full. Now, all of that is not super portable. So if we had an emergency at home, we'd be great. But if we needed to grab and go, one of my next projects is to do like a tackle box first aid kit. I don't know if you guys have seen those like on Pinterest, but you can fit like so much stuff all organized, and that will include a lot of the more medical stuff that I'm not as comfortable using, but that could be really helpful in an emergency, especially if my husband was around. And then for the extra things, like I've got snake bite kits and blood clotting stuff that doesn't come in like a normal first aid, that you'd need a little more room for, and that you'd want to be able to grab if you were going to evacuate via car, but that you wouldn't need. So that's, again, it's like, what can you take with you? What do you want at home? Maybe you have 2 separate piles, or you at least have the most important things in something that is somewhat portable and compact. Let's see. Shelter. For shelter, we talked about with our 72-hour kits, there's that you can just do tarps and ropes and have like a basic shelter. We also have some really good tents, especially with 9 of us in the family. We have to have like a lot of shelter, a lot of people to shelter. So we've got some big tents that we can throw in the car if we're going to have to leave and need shelter that way. We also want to have the heating blankets, keep yourself warm in your shelter and all of that and comfortable. So then that kind of goes along with heating and cooling. I didn't bring any toys to show for that, but those are always a little bit tricky. So for heating, I do have a toy for heating actually. For cooling, it's hard. I want to get one of those USB powered fans or even battery powered fans. That'll help a lot. I do have some cooling rags, so if you get them wet and put them on you, then they can really cool you off. Those are awesome. And then just like getting in there, just stay cool, take off your clothes. Like there's only so much you can do to stay cool. But to stay warm, obviously, like you can do a fire, but then you have to worry about fuel, and maybe if you need to be inside, you don't, like if it's dangerous to go out of your house, that's a consideration. So a few years ago, we found a company called Fortress Clothing, and this stuff, I have a funny video I'll have to share, because we put this all on in the freezing cold, me and my former business partner, and it is the best thing ever. So it is not cheap by any means. This is like, you can jump in like freezing cold water and survive. They use this in like Antarctica and stuff. A lot of cold weather athletes and military use this. So they have a whole kit that will actually fit in one pouch like this. This is for one person, and it includes pants, a jacket, a head wrap, gloves, and these that I kept these out. So these are like super warm. If my kids ever find these out, they will wear them all winter, even go outside. Like you're not gonna want to trek It's not like a shoe. It's more like a thick, a really thick sock. You could put them inside bigger boots, but this stuff will keep you super warm. It also absorbs the sweat, so like it keeps you from sweating. So you know when you're like freezing and then you put on warm stuff and then you sweat and then the wet sweat makes you cold, even though you're wearing all this stuff, like that does not happen. And then if it's freezing and then you walk inside, you're not like roasting and sweating. Like somehow it can control all the temperature. It has these gloves, like they're literally, they have gloves and mittens. This stuff's amazing, and they call it like portable, like emergency heat. This is your emergency heat. So if everyone in your family can have warm weather, cold weather gear, you don't have to worry as much about trying to heat your house or trying like how are you going to heat one room. Like that's what I used to recommend a lot, like to go into one bedroom and use whatever you can do, like those little heaters with ceramic pots with tea lights, and that makes a little warmth. You can have like an indoor heater, like a butane heater. There's different kinds of things you can do for that, but you don't want to like heat your whole house. So if you're doing just a little one room, then you can all stay there and stay warm. But if everybody has their warm gear, warm clothes, that gives you a lot more options while you're on the run, but also even at your house. So I love that. I'll show you a couple of videos and links about those clothing items. Like I said, they are not cheap, but they are really a good investment if you can do a little bit over time. Or especially if you're in a really cold area or if you have a concern of having to evacuate. Like I said, all of it can fit in this pouch, so that's something easy to just, you can just clip on to your disaster kit if you're evacuating on foot in your cold weather gear. So those are my toys for cold weather. Now, finally, if you're still watching, you are awesome, because I know this is long, but like I said, there is so much with this topic. Like food is just one thing, and I remember starting with the baby steps of food storage, starting with food, because when I had to think of all of this stuff, it was so overwhelming to me. And like it paralyzed me. I could not even think of how to start. So I started with food, because I figured, like in most situations, like you're most likely going to have a problem with not being able to get to the store or losing a job, and food is the thing that you would need. So, and then I kind of tackled how to actually cook the food. So powerless cooking is my second passion after actual food. So I'm going to show you my favorite two things for powerless cooking, and I'll give you a little brief chat about some other options, but this is what I would recommend to everybody to have. So this is a sun oven, all-American sun oven. Let's see if I can give you a better inside. This has been in storage and in my garage, so it's very dirty. This is what it looks like. This cooks like, a regular, like kind of like a convection oven, because the sun reflects here. It heats up the chamber inside and bakes through convection like that. There's a thermometer in there. This is the all-American sun oven. It used to be called the global sun oven. Sometimes they're blue, sometimes they're black. It's an awesome company. I have worked with them for probably over 10 years. We've done webinars on it. They're so useful. They're actually awesome for every day, like for if you don't want to heat up your kitchen in the summer and things like that. It just makes food taste good, and it's fun to practice. So, most places, I remember he told me the statistic in Utah when I lived there, was like 60% of the days you can use the sun oven. Now, if you live in Seattle, you're probably not going to get that much. But most places, as long as it's partly cloudy, you can use the sun oven. So my recommendation is as much cooking as you can do with your sun oven, do it. Even if it's winter, if it's cold outside. I did a video testing this outside, and it worked. You want to cook with that because you're not wasting fuel. Now, if there's a concern about safety being outside, or if you don't want, if you're evacuating on foot, you're not going to do that. It's too big. If you're going in a car, I would definitely make room for your sun oven. Because if 2/3 of the time you don't have to use fuel, that's a huge benefit for you in terms of how much you have to store and how long you can survive with your food and with cooking your food. So then the second thing I recommend for everybody, because you maybe don't want to always be cooking outside if it's freezing cold, or if it's raining, or if the weather's bad, then you've got to have indoor options. So the easiest indoor option, because most fuels, I mean, you can't use your barbecue grill inside, you can't bring propane inside, you can't use charcoal inside, you don't really want to do a fire inside, because you have a wood-burning stove with good ventilation. But this is my go-to. You can tell it's very dirty because I use it. So this is a butane stove. Butane is safe to use indoors. So I do a lot of my cooking videos using this because I can put it on the counter, but also it's great for emergencies. So it goes like this. You put the butane in. These canisters are safe to store indoors, and one canister will last, I think I remember this to stick like 1 hour on high or 4 hours on low. So it lasts a long time, especially if you're not, if you're like kind of doing fuel conservation methods with your cooking. So, like if you have a Wonder Oven or like a Saratoga Jack's thermal cooker, if you've used any of those, all you have to do is get the water boiling, and then you put it in like a thermal cooker, and then it can, it keeps cooking even though you're not using fuel anymore. So maybe you only have to take 4 minutes to boil your water, and that's all the fuel. So if you do a lot of meal in jars, then it's easy to just boil water, just add water, you got dinner. So that's why I love the butane stove. Now, if you want to bake inside, I have found one tool that can actually bake items in the house with no power, and it is called a Herc tea light candle oven. I have a few of those, a small one and a big one. I'm not sure if they're making those anymore. I'll give you guys links, but basically you light tea lights, and it's a little indoor, you can use those tea lights inside. They're totally safe to use, but you use a lot of them, and it actually will heat up this oven. It's pretty heavy duty. It's cool. It's a cool product. So if you can't cook outside because there's no sun, and you really want to bake a cake because it's your kid's birthday and it's an emergency, there you go. You can use your Herc oven. So that one's a good one inside. Also, you can cook with some of those emergency like fuels. I believe are safe to use inside, maybe like sterno. I think you can use this inside. Don't hit me if I'm not looking at that. So indoor cooking is definitely more of a challenge. So that's why I love the butane stove. It's my go-to. And outside you have a lot more options. So I have a volcano grill. I've had a very hard time finding those. I used to sell them, but then they shut down their dealer program. They're cool. You can use any fuel in them, and then you can fit a Dutch oven right inside. So you can do Dutch oven cooking really easily without having a fire pit. If you have a fire pit, that's a great way to cook as long as you can find fuel. I store charcoal. We don't have a charcoal grill anymore actually, but I've got a gas grill outside now. We had a propane grill. Now I'm wondering if I should save it for emergencies. And then also all kinds of little stoves. So I have some of these in 72-hour kits. This is one made by Instafire. If you followed me forever, you're kind of in love with Instafire. The Instafire is a fire starter, but also a fuel on its own. So this will boil water really fast. I have buckets of this, and so if you have charcoal that's old, you could sprinkle it on top. Even if you have wet wood, you can sprinkle this on top, and it'll light it, and it'll heat it enough that it will light anything on fire underneath. So it's an awesome fuel starter, fire starter, and then it's a good just basic fuel. So this is the stove that they came out with, and it actually has this little thing that you can turn on. I don't know if you can hear the fan, but that's going to circulate the air faster so that it gets up to heat quicker. I did a video on this a long time ago. I can't remember where I posted it, but let's see if I can find it. I tested it out to time how long it would take to boil water in it and how it works. So you can have any kinds of little stoves like this, any little, there's a lot of good miniature propane stoves that use the little propane containers. Those are great. Anything that is a fuel like propane though, and charcoal and all that, or anything flammable, you need to store outside um, or in a garage, but there are limits. Like you have to check your local area limits on how much of that you can store. So, there's one more I was going to talk about. Oh, Camp Chef. So Camp Chef sells also they have um, like outdoor propane, so not ovens, but like you can do outdoor canning on them. It's like a Camp Chef. It's like a stove outside, but it's propane. And so same way you would use a butane stove, but you could use it outside. And it's propane. So a lot of people will use those if they don't want to heat up their kitchen, or if they need extra burners for canning, they'll actually use their Camp Chefs outside. And just use the propane for that. So those can also be used to cook. And Camp Chef, they did a while ago, I don't know if they still do, had a big oven unit that you could keep outside, and it would cook up. I think also using propane. So there are so many options with powerless cooking. So if you are interested in learning more, I may do like a whole class on it. Let me know if that would be something that you would like to see, and I can kind of go into more detail about each of those different types of stoves, all the different fuels. There's so much good information out there. Like I said, I can't cover it all in like a 15-minute live video. So that's something that I may look into doing more of. Kind of same thing with all the emergency stuff. Like if you guys need more details, more info, let me know, and I can work on putting together maybe some mini classes on each of those topics. But like I said, join the 7-day challenge. We're going to go into more depth about why we would need to use those things like the sanitation products or the first aid products. We're going to have some emergency scenario that's going to require us to use those things, and then you'll see what works for you and what you need to get going forward. And then you have a wood stove. Wood burning stove. I think they're great to heat and to cook. Michelle, what's the butane stove? I know. So I don't know. I don't remember where I got mine, but I'll try to see if I can find the exact one on Amazon and post a link for you guys. So if you have any other questions, if you made it to the end, you're awesome. I'm going to send out an email. Actually, I think for the giveaway this week, I am going to give away a butane stove. So it probably won't be my exact one, but you will get a magical butane stove if you participate this week. So to participate, I want you to share kind of like what you already have, what you're learning. Just participate in the group this week as we go over all these emergency tools. And that will be the giveaway. If you have not entered from last week, go back to last week's video or email and just kind of share how you did with inventorying all your non-food items and your extras, like your comfort foods, your spices, your condiments. So share, share, share. We got prizes from that. And I think that's it. So I hope you guys had fun with this series. I know I was trying not to have it be overwhelming because we didn't have to do everything. We just had to find out what we already had. But I got myself a little overwhelmed because I just found so many things that I wanted to do and wanted to do better. And even though I don't have to do them right now, there's this big list hanging around in my head and on my papers full of tasks that I need to do and stuff I need to buy. So at least now I know. So it's better to know than to just think you're prepared and not have it, right? So I hope you guys had fun with that. Like I said, the last email will be out either later today or tomorrow. We all know that it takes me way longer than I think it's going to get it done because kids always need stuff, and then I get tired. So I will do my best for tonight, but it might be tomorrow. So I hope you guys like this series, and I hope you will join my 7-day challenge. I should have used a different word, but 7-day challenge has been going on forever. I know lots of you guys have been on it for many, many years, and it's super fun. So I hope you'll join us for that. It is always a grand adventure to actually try using and living and cooking and eating out of your food storage. So I will catch you guys via email tonight or tomorrow. Check out comments in the group. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm doing more kind of behind the scenes stuff over there. So you can follow me. It's Jody_food storage made easy. Or just search food storage made easy and it will probably come up. But I do a little more like day-to-day cooking with my family and just how I'm using stuff in my regular life. So if you like that kind of thing, you can see me over there. I try not to post as much of that on Facebook because people like to come here to learn, but I do post a little bit. So, okay, I am going to check comments. I'm going to sign off live, but I will be around for comments the rest of today. Like I said, post what you're doing, post how your inventory is going with all of this stuff. I know it was a lot to go over, and I will pick somebody as a winner based on how much you participate this week. So I'd love to see what you guys are doing, and if you have ideas of stuff, or if you have good products that you love and use as part of your stuff, share it with me. Like, I love going to fairs because I always find something new and cool that I can totally use for my preps. So I would love to share it with you. If you find anything else, then you can let me know and I can pass it on to the group. So I will sign off for now, and I will let you guys an email. And if you like these live videos, let me know. Maybe I will keep trying to do them like once a month or something with different topics. So talk to you guys soon.